Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. Any additions or deletions to the agenda? Nope. Okay. Opportunity for public comment related to agenda items. The two that I have are non-agenda items, so we'll have to wait till the end of the meeting. Superintendent report.
Yeah, Mr. Deal's gonna kick us off with a little bit of info.
Sure. Earlier in the school year, I had the chance to present the dates and agendas for our Title I Family Night, our High Ability Family Night, and our English Language Learner Family Night. So the most recent one was for the English Language Learners, and it took place last night. We hosted it here in this room. We kind of tried to set it up for them to be interactive. We were expecting around like 40 to 42 guests, and we got about half of that. And I gotta tell you, it was fantastic. So just to kind of share, we presented to the board that we were awarded a digital learning grant, and we used that for a series of Apple professional learning coaching sessions. So that spreads throughout the entire district. One of the areas that we focused on right away was how can we better communicate with our families that do not speak English, not just from the student perspective, but also the family members. So Apple Jim, as we lovingly call him, came in and did a half-day workshop with our English language learner teachers and interventionists about creating an agenda not only for educators, but one for families, so that with every kid, because they take home their iPads, they learned how to not only use spoken translation features to engage in conversation, but also to use the camera function to translate any document that goes home that might not be translated. So the way that we set up the meeting is they were all here. We had light appetizers provided by Chartwells, and we then, using the technology in this room, spoke. It just so happened that all of the attendees, their second language was Spanish, or their primary language was Spanish. We had the chance to speak to them. It would translate through the speakers and they could hear it. We then went through the agenda that way. And then because the students had their devices with them, they engaged in conversations with their parents or with their teachers with the device in between them and just practiced talking to one another. And we had some of the parents who are fluent in both English and Spanish saying like the translation is spot on. Like they couldn't believe how strong the Apple Translate app was compared to some others like Google Translate or something like that. So that was like a great takeaway number one. Takeaway number two was we had presented them with a document that says like, here is a reminder of what qualifies you as an English language learner, like the screening process, your scoring, your assessment, but also like the exit criteria. So we made it a one-pager so that they could practice using the device to translate it into the language that they wanted to. So even though it was written in English, they then all practiced translating that into Spanish so that they could read it if that there was their primary language. So we wanted it to be something that we hadn't done before, which is a really hands-on interactive workshop. Back of the room there, Mr. Blackman was with us. He was helping out with the technology. Our three English language learner, two teachers, and our interventionists were there. It was fantastic. So even though it was a small group, I think it was really impactful. We're going to do a recording of it so that we can send it all to all of the families so that they know how to do it as well. But then the next step is to make sure all of our teachers know how to use it so that they can kind of leverage that in the classroom so that there's more effective communication. Because we are getting a number of English language learners that are well below, like in the 1 and 2 range, where typically we were in the 3 and 4 range before from a language proficiency. So they need different types of assistance to communicate effectively. So something we're proud of at the district. I appreciate Mr. Blackman and that team of teachers and those that came out to it, and we look forward to doing more with that in the months ahead. So,
Great use of grant funds.
Wanted to report out to the board our mission to be good neighbors regarding the construction and over on Holtz Road and Windsor Woods back there. They're getting ready to install a sidewalk, so we took the time, sent a letter to the neighbors, gave them a heads up, and provided an opportunity for them to reach out should they have any questions or concerns. We did have a resident that reached out and was concerned about the exact placement of the sidewalk. So Skillman worked with the contractors. They went out and staked the path of the new sidewalk out. And we got some feedback from the neighbors. They said, you know, if it were 2 or 3 feet, you know, closer to the road that way, it would prevent X, Y, and Z. So had Skillman work with the town gave us clearance, not a problem, and so they're going to move the sidewalk back, and so the neighbors are happy, we're happy, and just, yeah, little things like that I think go a long way. The,
I noticed where the stakes currently are, they seemed really in the yard, so, good.
yeah, one of the talking points of the neighbor, like, they said that oftentimes they park cars in their driveway, and if that sidewalk was going to get used, people would constantly be having to walk around the car,
Mhm.
and so that was one of the talking points. It makes total sense.
Yeah.
Been working with the elementary and intermediate school principals. They're starting to solidify dates for Grandparents' Day, and so that will be back on the schedule. I believe that went away during the pandemic, and so this is an opportunity to bring it back. We've heard from the community that they desire to have it back, so we're gonna bring it back.
Great, so looking for like next semester?
April, I think seems to be the popular month so far.
I
Awesome.
think the intermediate school will also be doing a Grandparents' Day this year and possibly February.
I did hear back from Principal Malcarrick, and she indicated that their Grandparents' Day is going to be, I believe, it was like, I think it was like,
It's February 28th.
that date seems to conflict with what I got, so.
We can confirm later.
Yeah, so
Those-
on
those
any
middle
account.
schoolers are gonna really feel,
Grown up.
yeah, a little left out.
And then just, we're in the phase of construction where it's starting to slow down a little bit, but there are pieces coming together, and there's, it's now about quality control. And so there were some arrows on Holtz Road where you might notice a left turn, and if you were to left turn there, you go right into somebody's yard. So we're addressing items like that. The limestone on the front knee wall on the mark out here in front,
It's too low.
got it, and it was 8 inches too short. And so that was no fault of anybody here, but it has to now go back. We don't know the lead time. It was a huge lead time on the one we got. So.
I noticed they had one on there and there was another one, then it was gone.
They had the whole thing.
Oh, they had the whole
They
thing?
had, yeah, yesterday afternoon, the whole thing was up, and then I went by it, and I thought, oh, that seems a little low or small. And then I went by today, and it was all gone. I was like,
Yeah.
well, something messed up.
That correction will not be on our tab. And then an exorbitant amount of handicap parking spaces, more than would ever be needed, and so we're correcting. So I just wanted to be aware, you might see some things and think, we're going back and making sure that those get corrected.
Mhm.
And then finally, you should be aware of an initiative by NIPSCO for another rate increase. And I'll tag team with Dana, but the gist of it is, to our school district, it's approximately 23% increase that would take effect in 2 phases. It would be approximately March of 2025, and then I believe
Late summer of 2025, March of
Of
26. So
26.
2 different phases, yeah.
and that would impact our district on the forecast of by what?
$160,000, yes. And this is a rate increase not only for public schools, but it's a general rate increase for public as well. So
23%?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, depending on what rate tier you're in. And some school districts are being hit with the 25% increase. I mean, 3%, what's the difference, right, between that when you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars here?
The solar panels are gonna get paid off even quicker at this
Yeah.
rate.
Yeah, so it is, Hebron Schools is holding an informational meeting Monday night at their high school. I believe, Andy, do you have?
It's
I have it.
Monday, the November 18th, from 6:30 to around 8 o'clock.
Yes, and that's informational for the public. We had an informational meeting today. And the next step, major step in this would be November 26th at Ivy Tech in Valpo at 6 p.m., which is the public hearing for the regulatory commission there to hear schools, public, anyone speak for or against this. If anyone would like to join us. And region schools, so with the call today, we had pretty much every school represented in the region on the call to hear about this. And we are banding together to get a public voice on this for public schools.
But it does
Very quick
impact,
fashion.
if you get your electricity from NIPSCO, it impacts you.
Yes.
And we learned also today, approximately in the past 7 years, if this goes through, there will have been nearly a 70% increase
Wow.
in rates, yes. So it is a big deal. So to recap, next Monday night, Hebron High School at 6:30 p.m., open to anybody. That's really more informational. The most important meeting is the public hearing at Ivy Tech in Valpo on the 26th. That's the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. It makes it easier to remember at 6 o'clock. And that's where the regulatory commission will hear, and they're the ones that contain the authority to approve it or not. And that's all I have for the superintendent report.
Good information. Board member reports, do we have any?
No, Nate's not here.
Okay. Regular consent items, we'll do them together. Approve the minutes of the meeting held on Thursday, October 24th, 2024, and approve payroll claims. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion? I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Personnel, approve the personnel report dated November 14th, 2024. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? I abstain. Motion passes. Business operations, approve the resolution number 2024-14, authorizing Tri-Creek School Corporation participation in federally funded programs during the 2024-25 school year, and authorizing the superintendent to sign necessary documents regarding these programs. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Approve support staff salary rate increase retroactive July 1, 2024. Have a motion?
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Business operations consent items. We're gonna do them all together. Accept the following sponsorship donations in the total amount of $1,100 for the Lowell High School FFA National Convention. George Petro III of Griffith, $500. Robert and Janet Bailey of Lowell, $50. DeMott State Bank, $250. Sargent Electric Company of Pittsburgh, $300. Accept the anonymous sponsorship donation in the amount of $250 to the Lowell High School FFA National Convention. Number 3, accept the donation from John and Patricia Wallace of DeMont in the amount of $100 to be used for any Lowell Middle School student council needs. Number 4, accept the donation from James Wosman Jr. of Lowell in the amount of $50 to support the Lowell Middle School Penny Wars for Officer Schreiber's family. Number 5, accept the donation from Amex Neuter of University Park, Illinois in the form of 6-foot Schedule 80 weld coupons valued at approximately $1,000 to help support the Lowell High School welding program. Accept the donation from Albanese Candy of Maryville in the form of 1 case of gummy bears and True to Fit American Favorite gummy bears to be used as house rewards for Lowell Middle School students. That's a fun one. Accept the donation from F.E. Moran Industrial Piping of Hammond, Indiana in the form of 6-foot Schedule 80 weld coupons valued at approximately $1,000 to support the Lowell High School welding program. Accept the donation from the American Legion Auxiliary Unit 101 of Lowell in the form of various school supplies to help support student activities at Lake Prairie Elementary School. Accept the donation from Lake Prairie Elementary School PTO in the amount of $277.78 to help fund the 3rd grade study trip. Accept the donation from Lowell Intermediate School PTO in the amount of $600 to help fund the 6th grade study trip to the planetarium. and accept the anonymous donation in the amount of $19.01 to help fund Feed Them Forward to pay down negative student meal balances. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, curriculum and instruction and assessment, discussion of the academic calendar
Yeah.
for the
Thanks,
25-26 school year.
Your dad
Do I have a
was
motion to
good on
open
that.
to discussion? Do I have a motion to open discussion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion,
I'll second.
second.
All right, so draft versions of the calendar continue to be ongoing. You have 4 drafts. The first one, draft A, basically has the first teacher day on August 7th, along with back to school nights for elementary and intermediate school. Second teacher prep day would be Monday the 11th, with the first day for students on August 12th. In this version, fall break would remain the same as it was this past year, with corresponding dates of 3 days. And then the only other change on this calendar, different from this past year, are the half days in October and in February. And after discussion with teachers union and admin, with the October half day, while it was a beautiful day, kids got to go out and it was a nice time for teachers to have professional development, there ended up being some confusion from parents in the community regarding the bus routes and not being an early dismissal, but a half day, despite all the communications that went out. A second item of feedback was in regards to the professional development, that the time allotted on the early dismissal appears to be a sweet spot. And so the draft A version just has every Wednesday being an early dismissal and eliminating the half days.
I like that change with the half days.
So that's draft A. Draft B is implementing a week-long fall break with the corresponding week that it was this year. Turns the half days into early dismissals, but pushes the first student day to Monday, August 11th, with teachers returning August 6th, 7th, and 8th. Draft C is the same thing as draft B, but it moves the week-long fall break up 1 week to end at the end of the grading period. It also aligns with Crown Point. And then draft D, which came about after our conversation with the teachers union yesterday. So in regards to a week-long fall break between B and C, if it is corresponding date as it was this year, it provides the fall sports seasons to pretty much complete, with the exception of football, girls basketball, may have been some girls wrestling, but everybody else had no practices, and it truly was a week off. If we were to move a week-long fall break up a week in alignment with Crown Point, all of those sports, if they're still in the sectional and in the running, then they're still competing. And so the consensus was, if you do a week-long fall break, keep it as it was this year, because it benefits a lot more people.
I don't like running it right after an end of grading period, because with the older kids, that's like an opportunity to get your grades, like all that last push to get everything in. And that Friday right before a break, you're on vacation mode. Some people do take an early trip or whatever. I just feel like that might make that end of grading period a little messy with it going right into it.
So, great point, and there was that seemed to be the sentiment of the teachers union. So teachers work extremely hard, and just being an observer this year, watching that calendar and how it played out, because I knew that we would need to make adjustments because we did the 3-day for the first time this year. We watched the timing of it, And you could tell when you got to the end of the first grading period, people were ready for a break. Thought teachers would salivate over a week-long fall break. But ironically, at the table last night at discussion, they said 3 days was really nice. Having the extra day was much better and really did not endorse going to a week-long fall break.
I thought I had the unpopular opinion there.
I did think that you had the unpopular opinion. This was also partly balanced with the first student day.
That's the only difference, right, between?
Yeah, and it's really just 2 days.
Mhm.
But there's overwhelming feedback that when you start school, for kids to have a full entire week
It's heavy.
tends to be rough, especially for the younger. So, and teachers preferred to still have that first full week of August off if possible. So, I thought it was a slam dunk. We were gonna put it in our newsletter, send it out, ready for the community to chime in. But if the staff is not for it, I don't see our teachers work really hard and we need to respect that. So I would say at this point, draft D seems to be the popular choice regarding the first student day on the 13th. And so it's just open for discussion from.
Knowing I'm
board.
gonna have a kindergartner next year, that first being a full week made me nervous because it's gonna take a lot to build up her stamina. And so having a shorter first week of school, in my mind, just for those kindergartners to get the stamina, if the staff is on board with not having a full week in fall break, I like this option.
I mean, I think a full week would be nice, but you're still getting technically 5 days with the weekend, so.
Yeah.
If you still wanted to do a trip, you could.
I mean, the only thing that I would rather have, which is not even a big thing, instead of the 20th, 21st, 22nd, I'd rather have the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th.
So part of the reason for that is if the football games are still in season, then there would be a game on the 24th.
Mhm.
And plus that was the main reason.
And it's sectionals.
Yeah, you get into sectional
I
season.
think that's the first week of sectional.
This year it was, so if it's the same, yeah.
No, but it's, I'd rather have that full week, but that's just me. And I like to leave.
Right. So the one remaining item is we need to find an additional teacher workday to fit in, which would either be like on August 8th, or it could be that teachers report on Friday, February 13th with no students as a professional development day, or that Friday, the February 13th could turn into an in-person student day. That's just the last hurdle that we need to get over.
Is there a way to move parent-teacher conferences up closer to when report cards are sent out?
So we've had it that way in the past, and teachers hate it because you're getting ready for the hustle and bustle of the end of the grading period and collecting work and getting all of that, all the grades calculated, and then turning that right around into parent conferences. So we've tried it aligned with the end of the grading period. We've tried putting parent conferences before the end of the grading period. And then this year it landed where it landed. And there were 0 complaints this year from our staff. And we said yesterday at the table, that speaks volumes. We've tried it all different ways, and the most recent way seemed to be the
How
most
was the
popular.
turnout this time around?
We don't do sign-ins, but typically you see great turnout at the elementary. You have no-shows. You have then a next layer of best would be intermediate and middle school, and then it starts to taper off at the high school. So, but when we surveyed last year, parents, the ones who attended, they find it very valuable. And so even with the dropped off attendance at the secondary levels, overwhelmingly, the ones who go and take advantage of it, they wanted to keep it.
Is there like a meet the I mean, there's the back to school night, right? And then there's nothing from August, September, October. Like, again, I'm thinking more elementary, like an opportunity to meet my kid's teacher and classroom and how all of that runs. Is that still in the,
It's in the back to school night, and for elementaries, it would be Monday the 11th.
so I thought back to school night was just to come, find your classroom, meet your teacher, and that's it. And then we had a meet the teacher, I thought at some point where you would go in and the teacher would talk about how they run their classroom, their syllabus, whatever. Did we get rid of that?
So I think it's,
I think you're thinking that the high school didn't used to have, and I'm not even sure in the middle school, like they didn't have like a back to school night. They had a meet the teacher night after school started, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then last year, we added, I think, a back to school night for all
Okay.
buildings.
I think what you might be referencing is models for back to school night. Or / meet the teacher. So the elementaries in the past 4 years anyway has always been come in, meet the teacher, bring all your supplies, the Kleenex, the crayons, and et cetera. Find out where the student's going to sit, really just get acclimated to the kids getting into the building. Then at secondary level, we did 1 year put the back to school nights 2 weeks after the start of school. And there were some models where it's just like an open house format, you meet the teacher, go as you want. And then there are models where you actually run the kid's schedule and you're with each classroom teacher for 10 minutes and they give you an overview of the syllabus. Different schools do it different districts run it different. I will tell you, our staff like the meet the teacher open concept, open house style, where it's not run the bell schedule. It seems to work the best, so that's what we have presented.
You can always call a teacher and ask to meet them before conferences.
Yeah, and teachers have plan time, so if there are issues, elementaries use a lot of the classroom dojo. There seems to be a lot of communication to go back and forth. Canvas also is another, but a parent can call anytime and request a conference.
I think the only reason that I asked about the parent-teacher conferences is like, it seems like November is so far into the year to where if you have a kiddo that's having issues or needs help, some of those parents don't get on and access some of the things that we do provide for them to see what's going on. And so that may be the first time that they're realizing, and it's just kind of far into the school year already.
I would say if there are extreme cases, then parent and or teacher should be initiating contact.
Would hope, but it doesn't always work out that way,
They
unfortunately.
need to take some initiative. too.
This might force that to, if, continuing to keep this schedule might force that to happen more, and if this is what the staff
So
is.
we hope to wrap this up, land on it, and then present it to the board in December for approval.
Just out of curiosity, there's no way that we can push further into June and save August anymore?
There is a sentiment that we would all love to start school after Labor Day, but reality is that's not the world that we live in. There's an academic piece to this as well, and putting kids first. Preparing kids for their AP exams in May, preparing kids for iLearn, and all of those high-stake testing. When school's front-loaded at the end, those kids are more prepared, they're more confident going into those high-stake tests. When you extend it into June, again, personally, I don't think any of us have a problem with it, but the people who suffer really are the kids.
And
Because of
or
the state tests.
Right.
and or a balanced calendar and what that looks like.
Well, balanced calendar would be reflective of a week-long fall break,
Mhm.
which is not popular at the moment.
I'm
know-
hoping that once we start this new format of the iLearn, hopefully they'll give us a little bit more wiggle room with like when we can test. They're not gonna do it?
Not for the summative, so the summative is still gonna be an April window.
Yeah,
So even though the checkpoints are very large, 1, 2, and 3, those don't go towards any types of like what your summative result will be, it's truly just progress monitoring. That summative window will still be an April window.
So it looks like if we wanna see our school calendar start later, we need to hit up the state school.
So they're
Or
still
delayed.
ruining my week-long fall break.
Well, some balance calendars have a 2-week, or do they have a week November or 2-week spring break or?
2 week spring break.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, but yeah, obviously the state's still having some restraints on us.
You see a lot of balanced calendar in central Indiana. May get there, but it's not as popular as I thought it would be wading into that territory.
What's the thought about, it seemed like when you mentioned it, that the starting on like a Wednesday was more important than a week-long fall break. But what if we took a day, like starting on January 5th versus the 6th, then taking, a February or an April day in order to get that week-long fall break?
I think it's a talking point that when January 5th comes here, again, we used to not have it, and then we got it, and we're like, okay, this works. This is nice for both staff and students. But everything has a trade-off, which
It seems like this year's calendar, which had a lot of changes in it, has been very popular.
The team
So-
last night mentioned that at the table, that they had spent a lot of time at the round table discussing it, and that it felt good. I can't remember who it was, but somebody said, why break something that seems to be working well this year?
Yeah, and we did do some drastic changes last year, so, living that a little bit more and.
there'll come a time where it'll get stale and we'll be receptive to.
In the meantime,
The state
let's
test will
lobby
go
the
away.
state about changing state test timelines.
And the
I'm
PSA.
calling them tonight.
Was there, I don't know if you even know this, but was there a lot of kids that weren't here that Thursday, Friday this year?
Yeah, the high school reported an increase of absenteeism by 30%, and that was discussed at the table.
Okay, just curious.
Yeah, it's a talking point for sure.
Any more discussion?
So right now the lean is to
Go with
calendar D.
D.
Okay. Are you sending it out to parents
Um,
or we?
my philosophy with surveys, if you're not going to do anything with the feedback, then no. But we could put the draft out to just say, this is in draft version, and the
Like,
final
Any
version.
major concerns you can email or?
Yeah, we could roll up that comments tab.
If for people planning vacation, like there's high probability that this draft version is what it is. I think people primarily focus in on spring break, and that's not going to change unless the board differs on that.
Can you scroll that up so we can see the bottom? Thank you.
Any other comment? Okay. Moving on, public comment not related to agenda items. We have two. First one is Marty Tuttle.
I missed the last two meetings, and it wasn't just, anyway, it was different for me not to be here. So, during the past year, I have attended many school board meetings, some town hall meetings, and some work sessions. And I have learned a lot. First of all, I learned that our academic performance ranks right up there with the best of the schools in the area. I also learned that school safety is rooted in strong student relationships with caring adults. 5 simultaneous construction projects. Not only is the physical impact incredible, but when I reflected that that meant that there were innumerable offices and classrooms that were packed up in boxes, the boxes were stacked, somebody had to move them from the new place, and when they were moved, then somebody had to figure out where the lost boxes were. Humongous, amazing, and the quality control issues now speaks to excellence on your part. I also learned that Chartwell Food Service not only provides tasty and diverse menus, but also has an educational component. I was flabbergasted at how much depth and detail was required to figure out if electric buses would be fiscally feasible. And in my learning over the last year, I've even learned some new terms. I learned about geo bonds, about chillers, and I learned acronyms. ELA, ECA, SEL, NICEC, and on. But my vocabulary increased. I have come to appreciate many things about this board and the Tri-Creek leadership team. Decisions are based on expertise and given thorough due diligence. Community concerns are valued and addressed with sincerity and generosity of time and patience. Students are central to what you do and how you do it. That may be a no-brainer, but when I heard principals talk about the opening of schools, everything was about the students. How are they coming into the building? How are they acclimating? How do they feel? Is it going smoothly for the students? You live your mission and vision of excellence and empowerment. Not all organizations live their mission and vision. You do. Sometimes my neighbors and friends are very perplexed as to why I attend school board meetings. And there are 2 primary reasons. You inspire me. Each one of you, superintendent, central office staff, board members, hold a high vision for our school district, and you work diligently and tirelessly to make that vision a reality. That is hard work. It takes dedication and rededication every moment. It takes grit, creativity, and flexibility. It requires a mindset that says, how can we work around this challenge rather than, never done it that way before, can't do it. Let's move on to something else. You find the way around. To be in the presence, albeit on the edges, of smart, forward-thinking people, it's rare, and it is inspiring. You give me hope. Leadership trickles down. Your mindset and values set the tone for everyone, for principals and teachers and students and parents and maintenance workers, cafeteria workers. Our students will leave Tri-Creek with an excellent education. There's no doubt about that. But they will also leave having experienced what kindness looks like, what belonging feels like, and what characteristics to emulate in dedicated adults. For an elder, that hope is powerful. Our world is and will be in good hands because of your work. We're entering a time of harvest, a gathering together of goodness and abundance and blessings. And so in that spirit, I want to offer my gratitude and appreciation for your leadership and commitment. No one but you, individually and collectively, know what is required to run a school district. So thank you for being a vision for our community, for shining a bright light for our students and teachers, and for showing up and persevering. So on those days or moments when you wonder whether it is worth it, please remember that you inspire and instill hope. Thank you so much for your work.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We certainly noticed your absence as well. I hope you're,
Pardon?
we certainly noticed your absence as well. I hope it was doing something fun.
I was, thank you.
Well, thank you so much for that. Okay, up next, Mr. Favors.
Good evening, my name's Don Favors, I'm the auto tech instructor here at the high school, and I have not necessarily a problem, but a situation. When I started here in 2020, we had two running cars, a 2002 Rendezvous and a 2011 Subaru that was donated by the Subaru Corporation. Both of those cars have exceeded their life here. The Rendezvous is gonna be disposed of in a different way, which is pretty much normal. It's gonna be donated to fire training services, so they will pretty much cut it up using it for training and rescue training for, fire department until they're done with it, and then they will dispose of it through a salvage yard. The other one, and this is a little bit different, that's why I felt I needed to come to try to explain it. The 2011 Subaru was donated by the Subaru Corporation, so in doing so, the car does not have a title. It is now registered as a piece of equipment with us and not an automobile. With the rest of the vehicles that we have in our fleet, when they come from a manufacturer, there's no title. You sign off on the fact that it is now a piece of instructional equipment. You can no longer have it registered to be driven on the road, so we can't sell it. So it either goes to the scrap yard when you're done, or you can donate it to any other school to be used. So that's what we have here. With the abundance of cars that we now have in our fleet, which is pretty much what it is, I have over 10 vehicles in the yard and inside the school to be used for the students. The 2011 Subaru that we have could be donated to Hanover School District's auto program, which just started up last year. I've contacted their superintendent and their auto technology instructor, and they would be happy to receive that as a donation. So it would essentially, we would donate a piece of equipment. We can't look at it as a car, but it's a piece of instructional equipment that we no longer need that they have. In our fleet currently, we have a 2019 Chevy Blazer RS, which is donated by General Motors, two Subaru Outbacks, a 2017 and a 2015. We have a new to us 2017 Chrysler Pacifica that the students are fixing right now. A 2015 Chrysler 200, C200, a 14 Chevy Cruze, a 2012 Malibu, a 2009 CTS, an 08 Acadia, and a 2011 Terrain. So you can see I don't have a need for the old Buick Rendezvous or the 2011 Subaru. And we have an opportunity to help another school district out. They since they're just starting out, they don't have, this would be their newest car and the only one that would be capable of moving on its own power. So I thought I should probably come to explain that it's not really a car, it's a piece of instructional equipment to let you know that I've gone through Assistant Principal Amy Burke, who's over CTE, so she's aware of all of this, but they would be happy to have it if we would be happy to donate it to them. And they would incur any cost of moving it to their school as well.
Thank you for the explanation, because I think we would have been like, why didn't we sell it to make money for the program?
I know, it's because it's not a car, it's a structural equipment, so it either has to get disposed of through a salvage yard and be crushed, or we can donate it to another program. So those are our only two options with 4 of the cars that we have, and a 2011 Subaru is not being used anymore. It's redundant, so we could benefit another school district.
Sounds like a great reuse of the equipment.
Yeah, he's really excited that we could, hopefully make this happen, so,
Yep, we should help our neighbors when we can, so,
yes,
thank you.
thank you.
Okay, Thanksgiving break is scheduled for Wednesday, November 27th through Friday, November 29th. School will resume Monday, December 2nd. The next meeting of the Tri-Creek Board of School Trustees is scheduled for Thursday, December 12th. Are there any other comments from the board? Meeting adjourned.